Okay. The Doomed Yaoi Vampire Love Story. Goated name, by the way. Jaden had been cursed from birth, constantly lacking blood and iron. This led to him not quite develop a muscular body, his body leaning more into a twinkish form. He hated that about himself. How weak he appeared, despite being, I'm a president of the Apostasy SMP. The place him and many others called their home. His thoughts were abruptly cut off by the sound of one of his bodyguard's voices. It was the GOAT, the most epic in the whole world. Callux. He had come bearing news. President Jaden, I think we may have found someone capable of curing you. Jaden impression. Spit it out already! Don't make me wait any longer! Jaden couldn't hide the joy in his voice. That's the thing. The person we believe capable of helping you is Asher. Their first meeting was nothing short of a catastrophe. The presidential elections. Asher was murdered in cold blood. But despite that, Jade never thought of him as one capable of curing his condition. He had made up his mind. Asher would be his way of fixing his iron issue. So the president of Apostasy set off, leaving behind his two bodyguards, having full trust that Asher wouldn't try to harm him. On the other side of things, Asher was quickly panicking. Thoughts filled his mind. Could he kill the president? What if he failed? Would they have his head? Why'd the president have to look at him with those adorable pleading eyes? It was so cute. He cut off his own thoughts. It was unlike him to ever lose his composure this much, but nevertheless, the president was on his way. He would have to remain professional, but those thoughts still lingered like a nagging voice you just can't quite get out of your head. Jaden reached the snowy tundra, the cold air nipping at his pale skin. He knew the cold was bad for him, but this was even worse. Knocking frantically at the door, after what felt like hours, but was really only seconds, the door opens. The sight of Asher. Jaden can't help but notice how much fuller his shoulders look in that thick snow coat. How much taller he is. Asher welcomes Jaden in quickly. My impression of Asher. Welcome, Mr. President. It's nice to see you in good health. Jaden. Good health. I almost froze out there. The joke is hollow. Almost as quiet as the house. The only audible sound is the crackling of the fireplace. Jaden was led to what they can only assume is Asher's study room. Papers cover the desk, books scattered, some open to random pages, others closed completely. The sight surprises Jaden. For someone who has lived in a clean and organized environment, this chaos is strangely calming. Asher sat down at his desk, sorting through books with a sharp look in his eyes. He looks over at Jaden through his glasses, making his eyes look just that bit more piercing. Asher, your bodyguards already sent me a letter discussing your condition. I believe there is something that might be able to cure you. Jaden, oh, thank you. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed at how nervous he sounded. Why did this goat, make his stomach twist like never before? Asher opens a page, the paper cutting his finger slightly. Blood drips onto the page. At the sight of blood, Jaden becomes incredibly thirsty, but not for wine or water. Something hotter, more fresh. He licks his lips without noticing. Asher brings the cut to his lips, his tongue tracing over the cut, hoping to soothe the bleeding, but doesn't help. The bleeding continues. Before Jaden can stop himself, he takes Asher's hand in his cold fingers, clenching onto Asher's warmer hand. Jaden's thirst is unlike anything he could describe. He leans in, his lips inches away from the cut. His hunger so raw and primal it fills Jaden with need to drink some of this delicious red blood. That's part one. Alright, part two. This continues directly afterwards. He stops himself, just inches from the cut, as if snapping back to reality. But despite that, he still hungers. Managing to compose himself, he clears his throat. Sorry, I just can't have people getting hurt on my land, he says, the lie bitter on his tongue. Asher gazes over the smaller man, still desperately clutching his hand. He feels his heart race, his eyes trailing along Jaden's plump lips, how they glisten in the light. He clears his throat, speaking confidently. Now, as far as I can tell, the main cure for you would be through the consumption of blood. I have a stash of pig blood you could use. His voice is confident, but Jin's senses are strangely sharpened, almost animal-like. He can feel the wavering in Ash's voice, despite being smaller and weaker. He feels a surge of courage. Grabbing Ash's face, he pulls his gaze to his own. His green eyes hold a red glint in them. For the first time, Asher feels himself nervous, his hands lingering, not knowing where to go. Jin leans in, his lips inches from Asher's ear. Okay, here we go. He whispers, "What about your blood?" His voice is more confident than it was before, a hunger in the way he says blood. Asher gulps. Gulp! His Adam's apple bobbing as he feels his throat getting drier and drier by the second, his eyes frantic and wide. That would be entirely pointless. My blood can't be better than the blood I haven't. Jen presses a finger to Asher's lips, silencing him with a simple shh sound. Jaden reaches down, grabbing Asher's bigger hand and bringing the finger close to his lips. His tongue snakes out, trailing along the open cut on his finger. The warm, fresh blood tastes amazing. On Jane's tongue, his eyes never leaving Asher's. The warm taste fills his body, and he feels warmer, stronger, and more awake than he has ever been before. With every drop, he can feel his iron levels rising. Pulling away reluctantly from Ash's finger, he licks his lips, smearing the faint blood on his lips, painting them a light red. Ash's finger tingles from where Jaden's tongue trailed along the cut. He clutches his hand, trying to keep his cool. He clears his throat. I cannot be your blood mule. You may leave now, and I will send over enough blood to help rise your iron levels gradually. Jaden, what? Before Jaden can finish, he's practically pushed out of the house by a completely flustered Asher, his breathing heavy and uneven, clearly showing how Jaden's actions affected him. Jaden reluctantly begins heading back to Polaris, the land where he calls his own. The thought of Asher's blood still lingers on his mind. As he makes it to the docks, hops out of the boat he used to travel, immediately the sight of one of his bodyguards comes into view. It's Serchis, the second of Jin's bodyguards. Serchis, President, welcome back. I assume your trip was successful. Callux has already been sent out to collect the cure from Asher. Serchis speaks calmly and composed. His voice carries confidence. Jin, thank you, Serchis. Unlike Serchis, Jin's voice is filled with a sweetness, the lingering taste of Asher's blood still fresh on his lips. Time skip. The blood Asher provided Jaden was subpar at best. The pig's blood, sure, it was nutritious and helped Jaden keep focus when doing all of his presidential duties. It lacked the warmth and the power that came from drinking Asher's blood. The thought made Jaden lick their lips instinctively, right as he gulped down more of the pig's blood. Asher, on the other hand, couldn't quite get the sensation of Jaden's tongue along his cut. How the deepest part of him awoke during that, a part he had thought he had overcome. His deer prey instincts. In that moment, he felt a giant thrill run through his body. He had to learn what made the president appear so threatening to him in that moment. After searching through all the texts he could understand, and finding nothing, he turned to the scriptures that he had yet to fully comprehend. From all his searching, he found one page that rung truer than the others. The title for this page was Vampire? Okay. Part 3. This one's a lot shorter. The texts were detailed. They were exact, yet Asher lacked the ability to completely understand them all. all he could understand was a few things. The first piece of the text he understood was vampires, was ways to tell if someone is a vampire. The first passage states, vampires are low on iron. They require blood to maintain normal levels of blood flow. The second page, vampires are pale, typically smaller in stature, with twinkish bodies. The third page was just as recognizable. Vampires are weaker in the cold. Typically, their skin remains cold for hours on end. The final passage he could decipher stated that vampires thirst for blood, and when they come into contact with fresh blood, they enter a more dominant state hunger, with such raw primal needs. These passages rang true for Asher. His mind was being convinced. Jaden was a vampire. He gulped, reading over the passages one more time, convinced he had to be crazy, that he had to be jumping to conclusions. But the more he read, the more it all lined up. The more everything began to make sense. Why Jaden had been acting so weird when Jaden had enjoyed the taste of his blood so much. Just the thought of that made his nerves grow and his throat tighten. He questioned once more, why did his heart race like this? But before he could read into it, he heard a knock at the entrance to his manor. He knew who it was. Of course he did. Jaden had been going through his stock of Pid's blood like a manic. It was Callux. He recognized that look in his eyes. It was his way of saying, without words, that it was time. Asher huffed, a sound he had been making more recently, speaking with complete exhaustion. You know where it is. Are you that incompetent to get it yourself? Me. You know the rules, goat. You get it and give it to me. No complications. He huffed again and began walking to the basement of his manor. Yet another week, where sharks would only get rations of blood. He walks back up, granted, slower than before, carrying a large barrel of blood, before handing it over to Callux, who carries it without issue. His mind begins to wonder, why was he doing all of this? Just because Jaden asked him to? No. He's never been a fan of authoritarian leaders. So why did he do this all for Jaden? Jaden had been meaning to send Asher a letter for weeks, maybe months at this point, constantly stopping himself, stuck trying to find the words. After all, last time they met, he did try to drink Asher's blood. Sure, he succeeded. Sure, it was delicious. He was getting off topic. Hyping himself up, he slid the letter into the mailbox, his delicate cold hands letting go of the paper, as he felt his pulse spike. As soon as he did, he wondered what would happen this time. Now, this is the new part. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. Okay, the letter had been sent. With shaking hands, Jaden waited. Minutes turned into hours. Hours into days. By the third day, he was sure Asher would have gotten his goat mail. The president clenched his fists in rage, his hands slamming on the desk, creating a loud bang sounded through his quiet halls. Only then did he notice one of his bodyguards looking at him. It was Chachi? Chachi, President Jaden, you feeling okay? He asks. From how his voice sounds, Jaden can tell he woke Chachi up from his deep sleep. Jaden, it's fine. I thought I saw a small, grey, disgusting moth. The president shivers at the thought. Chachi then, understandably, huffed with annoyance before trotting back off to his room, leaving the president alone once more. Just when Jaden thought he had peace, a thought crossed his mind, a thought unlike any he had ever had. A manic grin plastered on his face as he comes up with his plan. On the other side of the world sat Asher. He had received Jaden's letter, but was far too cowardly to confront the president by letter or in person. The letter remained sat on his desk, a constant reminder of how much of a coward he was. Despite himself, he knew that he liked the president more than he should. More than any man should like another thought. Thoughts flashed through his head. Do I like guys? Jaden is quite twinkish in it. Why does he have the most adorable bug eyes ever? His mind was more chaotic than ever before. Before he could stop himself, he wrote a reply to Jaden, but as quick as he finished it, He tossed it aside with all the other letters he had wrote for him, but never sent. Why would he like me, of all people? That was the only thought that seemed to fill his mind until he heard knocking at the door. He froze, his nerves shooting up. The first knock was light, almost gentle. But as the knocking continued, it became more and more powerful and frantic, almost as if whoever was knocking was getting more enraged. Asher gulped, gulp, and then suddenly the knocking stopped. Right as he breathed a sigh of relief, Jaden kicked his door down, looking at him with a manic look in his eyes. Before Asher can speak, Jaden pounces on him. Despite his smaller body, Jaden pins Asher under him, their breath mingling. Jaden's eyes are green but with a distinct coat of red. Jaden, I've waited 3 flipping days. What do you have to say for yourself? Asher, his throat tightens, barely getting out. I did fight for you, just never said. Jaden looks confused, letting go of Asher just enough for him to point towards all the discarded letters. Jaden grabs one, and in the process, pushing more firmly against Asher's chest, making his mind race. Opening the letter, Jaden is taken aback. Asher is talking about how badly he loved watching Jaden suck his blood, how he wanted more. Jaden smirks before holding the letter teasingly out of Asher's reach. I see you want more than let me provide. Jaden begins leading down, his fangs, which have grown recently to be sharper and more made for puncture wounds, his hot breath on Asher's neck, and then part 5 coming whenever I can be bothered to make it. Yeah, that's it, guys.
I fucking hate you. I
Callum,
fucking hate you.
you had to have had a fucking Wattpad stage.
What can I say? I'm a little good at this.